Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are diving straight into something completely wild about your brain, your biology, and unlocking your hidden potential. We spend so much time obsessing over how to learn new skills or grind out new talents, right? But what if the absolute biggest barrier to your personal growth has nothing to do with what you lack and everything to do with what is currently sitting completely dormant inside of you?
Seriously, I want you to ask yourself this question right now. How much of you actually exists? And no, I don't mean physically. I mean how much of your true capability, your absolute peak potential, is actually up and running in your life today? Well, the latest research in neuroscience and behavioral genetics reveals something incredibly profound. Most of your true potential isn't missing. It isn't broken. It's just locked away.
As you can see, there is just a massive gap in human capability. Have you ever wondered why two people can grow up in the exact same neighborhood, go to the exact same schools, or even grow up in the same house, and yet their lives go in entirely different directions? One person completely stagnates, while the other transforms into this unstoppable force. It is so easy to just blame their environment or raw talent. But the real difference? It's not about what they have, it's about how much of themselves they actually switch on. Most of who you could be is currently sitting over there in that huge 90% slice, completely silent.
Let's put some hard science behind this for a second. Your genome, which is basically the complete biological blueprint of who you could possibly be, contains roughly 25,000 genes. That is the objective biological baseline for the person you have the capacity to become. But here's the crazy catch. At this very second, only a tiny fraction of those 25,000 genes are actually doing anything.
The rest of those genes, they are hanging out in a state called epigenetic silence. Basically, you have this vast, incredible architecture of capability sitting perfectly quiet inside your DNA right now. These genes didn't get deleted. They aren't broken. They are just unexpressed. You literally have unformed neural pathways in your brain that are just sitting there, totally dormant, waiting for the exact right biological trigger to wake up and build a brand new version of you from the inside out.
Now, this is where we have to radically reframe the choices we make every single day. Because usually, we treat comfort as the ultimate prize, right? And stress is the ultimate enemy. But biologically speaking, that is completely backward. The trigger your body actually needs to wake up those dormant genes isn't a sunny day on the couch. It isn't reading motivational quotes. The trigger is stress. Specifically, the right kind of stress. It is a huge contrast. You can either let familiar patterns slowly decay your potential, or you can face the vital, biological necessity of stepping out of your comfort zone.
Let's look at the empirical science of what actually happens when things get tough. When you step into a highly challenging situation, when you do something completely new that stretches you to your limits, your body doesn't just panic and shut down. It reads that difficult environment as a signal, an alarm bell, and it responds by physically building new gene expressions. It starts wiring entirely new nervous system structures. This is wild, but the exact mechanism your body uses to construct new capabilities is that precise feeling of discomfort. You are quite literally constructing a new version of yourself in real time.
So here's the really tough pill to swallow. Avoiding challenges doesn't just keep you at a neutral baseline. If you constantly dodge the things that make you uncomfortable and you just stick to the same familiar routines, your brain doesn't hit pause. It consolidates around what already exists and stops building anything new. In a very literal biological sense, when you choose comfort over confrontation, you are telling your body to become a smaller version of yourself. Comfort is not rest, guys. Comfort is decay.
You know what's fascinating? We see this exact biological truth playing out in our oldest stories. It's like ancient myths contain this deep psychological map way before we could prove it in a lab. Take the story of Pinocchio. Sure, on the surface it's a cute kid's tale about a puppet and a big whale. But look deeper. The terrifying whale isn't just a bad guy. The whale is the abyss. It represents every single terrifying thing in your life that you've been actively avoiding, every challenge you've been telling yourself you aren't quite ready for yet. And Geppetto, the father trapped deep inside the belly of that whale, that's not just a character. That is your full potential. Think about how perfectly this maps to your own psychology. The ultimate capability you are searching for, the absolute strongest version of yourself, is hidden deep inside the very situations you are running away from. To rescue your potential, you have to go into the dark, uncomfortable abyss.
Now, if stepping into the abyss sounds utterly terrifying to you, I want to reassure you for a second. You are actually perfectly equipped for this. Think about what your existence literally means. You are the living, breathing result of an unbroken chain of ancestors. Every single one of them had to survive something profoundly difficult just to reproduce. Famines, predators, absolute chaos, and they beat it. All of that survival wisdom, all of that built-in resilience, it is already encoded right into your DNA. You have the biology of a survivor sitting inside of you, just begging to be activated.
But look, just knowing the science isn't going to flip the switch. We have to know how to trigger the activation. And this brings us to a trap that literally almost all of us fall into. When we finally identify that scary thing we need to do, our brain tries to protect us by pulling a fast one. We start making plans. We buy a new notebook, we map out the outcomes, we read articles about it, and our brain goes, awesome, we're being so productive. Nope. Planning is not progress. Planning is just a highly sophisticated way of avoiding the abyss.
So how do we hack this? How do we bypass that anxiety and biologically force those new pathways to grow? Well, behavioral psychology gives us a brilliantly simple framework. First, identify the exact thing you are dodging. Second, break it down. And I mean break it down into the smallest, most embarrassingly microscopic pieces possible. Find a piece so ridiculously small that you can actually do it today without freezing up in panic. Executing that one tiny piece, that is your trigger. Because the moment you execute that tiny step, something incredible happens in your brain. You become just a little bit more present, a little bit more informed. It's literally like snapping a new piece of a puzzle into your mind. Every single small action you take isn't just moving a to-do list forward, it's actually adding more of you to the equation. You are firing up those previously silent parts of your biology and bringing a brand new capability online. But there's a catch, and it reveals what we call a hierarchy of value. A lot of super ambitious, hardworking people get this completely wrong. They put in the long hours, they sweat, but they are aiming way too small. See, when you set a goal, your brain produces forward momentum. But the quality of that biological activation depends entirely on the size of the goal. If your goal is tiny, your activation is going to be tiny. You can work with incredible discipline, but if the target doesn't truly demand everything you've got, your brain just won't unlock the heavy artillery.
Which brings us to this absolutely killer concept. A massive, terrifying goal isn't just something you slap on a motivational poster, it is a strict biological requirement. Like the quote says, if your dream doesn't make you feel scared or crazy, you're not dreaming big enough. If your vision for the future doesn't make you feel a little bit uneasy, you just aren't giving your body a big enough reason to wake up. Big, scary dreams are the necessary trigger for rich, unlimited activation.
So when you look at exactly where you are right now versus where you desperately want to be, it is so easy to think you're missing some fundamental piece. But the distance between who you are and who you could be is absolutely not a gap in intelligence. It's not a lack of talent. It's not a lack of opportunity. It is simply the gap of confrontation. The only thing separating you from your ultimate potential is the discomfort you've been putting off. It's the challenges you just haven't looked in the eye yet.
And that leads us to the absolute chronological truth of all human transformation. Listen closely. You do not wait to feel brave before you act. You don't magically discover your full potential and then step into the ring. That is totally backward. You act first. You take the uncomfortable step, and then, and only then, the dormant biology kicks in to support the bold move you just made. Action first, potential second, always.
So as we've been going through this explainer, if you've been feeling that nagging, restless sense that you aren't quite the person you're meant to be yet, if you feel a bit of anxiety bubbling up, I want you to completely flip how you look at that. That feeling is not a bug in your system. It's not just a problem you need to manage or make disappear. That feeling is your literal biology knocking on the door. It is the locked-away version of you demanding to be let out.
The absolute strongest version of yourself isn't some made-up fantasy. It is your hard biological reality, heavily encoded right there in your DNA. You've got this massive architecture of capability just waiting for the stress of a real challenge to bring it to life. So I'm going to leave you with one final thought to chew on as we wrap up this explainer. Stare directly into that abyss you've been avoiding and ask yourself, what is your biggest dream?